Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Look, let's just get right into it. There's a couple things we have to talk about. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so now we gotta talk about what I've been seeing for the last week. Yeah, this is it's crazy at this point. So, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano had their epic rematch on Netflix last week, Friday, right? Now, the official numbers have come in saying that about 75 million people watched that fight, with a peak on the event of about 108 million worldwide. That's insane numbers. Okay, now it's not obviously the biggest in history, you know, of an event or whatever, but based on sort of new school metrics and the new, you know, like the new world and the digital era, that's nothing to be sniffed at. Now, the elephant in the room, yes, 75 million people weren't tuning in directly just to watch that fight. That's fine, we get that. It was because Jake Paul and Mike Tyson were fighting. But guess what? I bet 75 million people now know who Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano is, regardless of how they got there. They was on the undercard, they got seen, and they put on a fight that made it that people will know their names. And even if those 75 million people don't care to tune in again, they'll remember that women's fight before the Jake Paul and the Mike Tyson fiasco. Yeah, like them women, like that was a decent scrap. That's kind of what you're gonna hear from the casuals. I've seen a lot of casual people when I've been at work and stuff talk about that and say, oh, did you see those women scrapping? Da. Bear in mind, again, these are people that don't know nothing about them. So it's not even talking to boxing people. So they weren't there for them. However, they know who they are now. They became there for them at the end of that. So you have Clarissa Shields has been basically doing her biggest hate campaign since last Friday over on Twitter, talking about basically how they got a fight and she's got to fight them to prove who's the best person. I've seen that, who wins out of me, Katie. They say, Katie's the best woman of. They say, I'm the greatest woman of all time. Katie's the best of this era. So who would win? So she's now trying to campaign again for a Katie Taylor fight. Bear in mind, Katie Taylor said in that face-to-face with Amanda, like, you know, Clarissa's a very big girl. I don't know what business she's got calling out people so much smaller than her. It is so true. But now there's more wrinkles to that, because she's constantly, even her and Amanda was talking and she's like, there ain't no love, me and Amanda's cool, like I ain't got no problems with them. But yeah, every minute you're basically either shitting on this event or trying to make the event about you. Why? When you have a fight, Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor are not tweeting about, she gotta see me, or she might be fighting this week, but I'm the best, look at what I've achieved. No, they let you have your time, they let you have your space. Like that's your time to do your thing. It's not their fault that damn near nobody watches your events. Like, unfortunately, it's just not. Now, let's get to what happened within the last 12 hours, because this is where I'm seeing it. So basically, Clarissa tried to be sly and she tried to DM Cameron. Of all people, she tried to DM Cameron and tried to play pity party. She goes, Cameron, they're trying to rewrite history, because like when Amanda and Katie did their fight on Netflix, it was only like 1 million or something people watched that. But my fight with Savannah Marshall did over 2 million. So I had the highest viewing numbers, and I still got the highest viewing numbers, because everyone of those 50 million or whatever that saw Katie and they weren't there to see them. They just on the undercard. Okay, so remember when Katie was on the undercard to Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz? So by proxy of the fact that she was on their undercard, did she not get multiple extra eyes on her event? the fact that she was constantly paired with Anthony Joshua early on in her career because he did numbers, and by proxy of him doing numbers, it meant that people would see her and build her profile to the point where she then didn't need to be on Anthony Joshua undercard, and she was main eventing her own fights to pretty big numbers, especially when the zone came around. All right, but let's look at what you're saying. So okay, people only went there to see Tyson and Paul, and you know, it wasn't for them. That doesn't change the fact that 75 million people still saw them. More in point, all right, so they did 1 million there first. Cool, you did 2 million, but who did you do 2 million with? Was it not a Sky Sports show? Yes. Was it in the UK? Yes. Are you from the UK? No. The fight before that, when you fought Emma Kozin, what was the numbers on that one? I'll wait. Yeah, weren't that great, were they? Didn't think so. So therefore, we can conclude that the people that tuned in for your fight in the UK weren't there to see you. They were there to see who? Who were they there to see? That's right. They were there to see Savannah Marshall. They were there to see Savannah Marshall beat you because that's who they were supporting. Of course, that didn't happen. You got the job done. Congrats. Like you whooped Savannah. Like, I mean, you didn't dog walk her as you claimed and all that stuff. That fight was hella close, hella competitive. True say, I was there. I scored it a certain way. I scored it for Savannah. At the slightest of margins, very, very slight of margins. It was like 1 point in the fight for me. But yes, you know, I've watched it back and I said, okay, I definitely see that there's, I mean, even then I said there's no, you know, there's no disputing or there's no arguments from me. Everyone that said, you know, that Clarissa won, but I saw it a little bit different in certain rounds. Okay, cool. But ultimately, the 2 million people that tuned in to watch that show, they weren't there to watch you. You might have had some people there to watch you, but the bulk of that was to watch Savannah Marshall. So when you're talking about, oh well, you know, they was there to see Paul and Tyson, well, the same applies in yours. You was lucky that you had a dance partner that had a decent enough following and a decent enough interest within them that they actually was able to get you to those numbers, because that 2 million weren't from the US where you're based. Because what did your fight straight after that do when you fought, you were supposed to fight Hannah Gabriels for the second time, and that didn't happen, and you ended up with the replacement whose name I can't be bothered to remember right now. I do know her, and I'm not trying to disrespect her, but I can't be bothered to go through the memory to remember. What did those numbers do? I'm pretty sure we got to a point where you gave away about 60% of free tickets to the event, to the venue, to fill it up. If I'm remembering correctly, there was pure tickets being given to school kids and teachers and all other sorts of things like that. A good chunk of tickets. I remember when I looked on the website a couple of days before when I was in Canada, and there were seats strewn all over the place. So all of a sudden, like the following day, we don't see anything topped off, but there's people there. You're looking at but I'm still looking at this thing, and all of those seats are still there. What was the viewership like on that fight? When you know, on the zone? What about the fight you just had, the Joanese fight, the light heavyweight / heavyweight fight? What was the viewership numbers on that one? What was the viewership numbers on the Marie-Eve DeCare fight that you had to put on the pay-per-view on Triller? I'm sure only 60,000 people bought that, right? So we're talking, so if you want to talk about numbers, what numbers are you generating by yourself? What numbers are you generating? Like Katie Taylor can draw numbers with anyone. It's been proven. We've seen it. Amanda Serrano can draw numbers with anyone. We've seen it. It's been proven. Together, they're monstrous. They draw an ungodly amount of numbers for women's division. They get paid more than anyone else in the sport of women's boxing. Their opponents get paid more than you when you're in the main event. And I know this. I've seen and I've heard things. I've actually seen stuff of what certain opponents have been paid fighting an Amanda Serrano or even fighting a Katie Taylor. And for the most part, I'm not saying that all of their opponents get paid better than you. You've had some pretty big paydays, but some of their opponents have had paydays comparable and better than your paydays outside of the Savannah Marshall fight. So what does that tell you? Clearly they have to, they're top. Whether you think that you beat them in the ring, yeah, you do beat them in the ring. You've got like 30-40 pounds on these women. You're supposed to beat them. Like if Amanda goes back down to quote unquote featherweight, which you probably won't do, but if that's the case, you have 49 pounds on that woman fighting at light heavyweight. Katie Taylor, you have 30, what have you got? 34, 35 pounds. Light heavyweight to 140. If she goes back down, then it's, you know what I'm saying, there's 40 pounds there. Like, it's just ridiculous. The lengths that this woman goes to just hate on any and everyone that's doing better than her. Like, it's not their fault that people don't like you. I've said numerous times why people don't like Clarissa Shields, and I get, oh, you're just bad to, no, like, there's been times I've wanted to like her. There's been a couple times I've seen things, I'm like, oh, so this happened and that. All right, you know what? I want to try and give you a chance, but every time that I'm out here trying to give you a chance, you go and do something to prove that you ain't that person. You're not likable. I remember she came over to the UK, tried to do a little bit of a rebrand. I'm like, oh, so she's showing people, and that this makes sense. She couldn't stay in character. Like, because the hatred just had to seep through. She had a lot of the UK eating out of her hand to a certain extent just before the Savannah Marshall fight. But as soon as that fight happened, what happened? She had to be all over Twitter, like scream. She was on there for about a good 2-3 months eating off of that victory and talking and all the haters and laughing and da 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 da. Only for then the next time someone else has got a decent profile, all of a sudden now she got to make it about herself. Every single time someone else is fighting, you got to be up in the comment section or up on talking about or making things about you. There's no other fighters that do that. I mean, Tuesday I saw Michaela Mayer try to speak respectfully to Katie Taylor. Well, look, if you want to come to 147 and try to be a freeweight champion, be more than happy to have you. All of a sudden, Clarissa, yo, Michaela, what you walking around at now? 147? Like, come up to 150. It's like, why are you getting involved when she's got a belt, she's close enough to the weight, she can make 140 comfortably without having to kill herself. She's trying to engineer a fight that may make sense or may make Katie, okay, 3-time world champion sounds good against someone that's in and around my size. It makes sense. But here you come just interjecting into the, oh, well, you know, let me get rid of this 175 ass, I'll make myself down to 154, we could fight there. And then Michaela's like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll build myself up to that. Bearing in mind, she's not a 154 girl. So you there pulling up other girls from lower weight classes, yet again, trying to make fights. All because there's no one in your division. Hence why, when you talk about being the GOAT and XYZ, it's not true data, because there's just not enough of a talent pool where you campaign for people to really know how good you are or not. The fact that 7 or 8 of the belts that you actually hold were vacant, they were just put on the line and given to you and just added into title fights to make them unifications and undisputed fights. You didn't win. I think she's only won 4 belts in the ring, like 4 or 5 belts across the 13 fights. which, yes, I'm not saying that's not an accomplishment, but when you talk about I got 15, like, what is it? I got like 17 belts at home or something. Yeah, only about 4 or 5 of them was won inside the ring. So I don't know why she can't just let people be happy for themselves. I don't know why she can't just let other people have their limelight. Like, it doesn't all have to be about you, and this is exactly why you will never be what they are, because when you're too busy focusing on them, they're busy focusing on themselves, and that's the problem. You need to focus on yourself and focus on doing things that are going to make you rise above the pulpit, rather than complaining that no one's respecting you, everyone's disrespecting you, or trying to say that you're not the best, or you're not the good fighter, or they got to see you because you're the real king, or you're the real queen, or whatever. No, just, unfortunately, if you ain't got a lane to play in, all you can do at this point is just beat the best of the people that are in and around your weight class. All right, if you can make it back down to 154, you clean up 154 again, clean up 160, clean up 168. You've got Franchon Cruz, now you've got Shadeja Green. Go through them, go back down to one. Like, you just got to rinse and repeat, clean up those with Raquel Miller. Like, that's your lane. Savannah Marshall asked you for the rematch, and you're like, oh well, it's got to be in the States now because I beat you over in your country. Bear in mind, the States don't care about you. What money are you drawing for that fight in the States when the money for that fight is in the UK? It's the same as asking Inoue to go to the States to fight on the undercard for like $600,000 when he's over in Japan making 4, 5, and 6 million a fight. Clearly, the place to do the fight is there, where they view and respect the lower weight classes. In your case, your biggest fight happened in the UK. Your biggest payday came from the UK. That's where you've got to try and make your bones now. If it means you've got to run it back with Savannah in the UK, that's what you needed to do. Because you versus Shadeja ain't gonna sell shit in America. Even you versus Franchon ain't gonna sell shit in America. And I love Franchon and her attitude, and I've always said, if Clarissa Shields had Franchon Cruz's personality, she probably would be a household global star by this point, but unfortunately she don't. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because I've got some other things to do. I've had my say on it. It needed to be said. Leave your comments down below, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. That's the Hardcore Casual out.